What's up? Welcome in. It's a Friday. You made it till the end of the week. And as we know, that is something to be very proud about. Feel accomplished. If you're a fan of one of the four teams left in the NFL playoffs, congratulations. This is a weekend all about you. But for all of us, again, we made it to the end of the week and the weekend. So give yourselves that collective pat right on the back. We did it. We did it again. And it's a happy time. It's a sad time at the same time because we know the amount of football games that we have left are dwindling in front of our eyes. There's only 3. I mean, you have the Pro Bowl games. Gives a shit. 3 football games left. Doesn't it seem like legitimately yesterday we started talking about the pathway to Santa Clara? What's going on? Who's going to get there? Oh, I think it'll be the Chiefs and the Lions. Nah, we're down to Jared Stidham, Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, and Drake May. For somebody that is sitting here, growing up in the Bay Area in the 80s, thinking about the fact that either the Rams or the Seahawks are going to have a chance to play for a Lombardi on the 49ers field. Ugh. I feel like I need to go take a shower just after saying that. But we said it a month ago. I asked the guys a question. Which team out of the NFC West represents in the Super Bowl? Because it was clear to a lot of people that without a shadow of a doubt, the NFC West was putting somebody in the Super Bowl. Well, we already know now that's a guaranteed fact. Man, I've seen a lot of stuff from Niner fans this week. Feel free to comment along if you're watching along. We'll get as many of them up as we can. Obviously, we've got some plays for today. Some thoughts on college football expansion as far as the playoff goes being shelved, at least for right now. A couple other things, and then we'll dive headfirst into these. Got some thoughts on the Vegas Golden Knights, too. Everybody wants to bust the Dodgers balls, but everybody leaves the Knights alone. We've got some stuff that's staggering. But back to the 49er fan predicament here. I've seen a lot of people like, hell no, not the Seahawks. Don't want the Seahawks to win on the Niners home field. Like, Niner fans are hilarious. There is a huge discrepancy between when you became a Niner fan or not. And some of you out there are laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Apparently, the Daytona 500 is getting ready to start in my damn neighborhood right now. Does solo show on Friday, forgets the closed studio window. But I'm baffled by the fact that some of these Niner fans are like, hell no, not the Seahawks on our field. You'd rather have a team from Los Angeles win a championship on your field? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. Makes zero sense to me. And listen, the Niners and Hawks have had their back and forth. But if you look at that rivalry, if you will, dominated in the Carroll Harbaugh time by the Seahawks, dominated since Mike McDonald's arrival, to be determined what happens from here. But a team from Los Angeles, you're okay with winning a title on your own field? I don't know. I think either way, it's going to be reality. We'll get more into that here in just a second. As I said, feel free to comment along if you're watching along. College football had an expansion. The playoff expansion date was today to make a determination on whether we were going to expand the postseason field or not. Well, congratulations, TJ. I know you're watching. This will make you very happy. They did not expand it. What will make you not happy is they did not contract it either. TJ's like wish of all wish. to get it back down to 4 or 8 teams. So the number in the field is not changing. We know that now. It's going to stay at 12. Apparently, the Big Ten wants a commitment to expand the tournament from 16 to 24 teams after the first 3 years of 16 teams. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey doesn't want that, won't commit to it, so we're going to stay at 12 because, again, the Big Ten and the SEC have to determine how this thing goes for everybody else. College football, man. Such a cluster F of wrong people making wrong decisions, and yet we still watch it. It was one of the most watched college football years of all time. Here's what we do know, though, going forward. So we're not going to expand off of 12, but the Power 4 conference champions going forward will be guaranteed a spot in the 12-team field, along with the highest-ranked conference champion from the group of 6. That group of 6 now includes the new-look Pac-12, or Pac whatever they're calling it, Pacific Conference. I'm sure Mick Cronin is already going, can we go back to the Pac? I mean, all that guy does is bitch and whine. You knew your school was going to jump into a travel heavy schedule, Mick. I mean, there's other jobs. So, the 4 Power 4 conference champions, all guaranteed in. Highest ranked conference champion from the group of 6. And I am telling you right now, somebody's going to crash the party next year. I am a believer in Island time being the right time. And I think Timmy Chang is building something really, really special at Hawaii. Maybe they crash the party next year. We got a long way to go. I do have a hilarious, way too early ranking. And key there is I said hilarious because you know what we feel on this program about preseason rankings in college football. Notre Dame, as part of this new expansion, this is no surprise. We heard about this. They will be guaranteed a playoff spot if it finishes in the selection committee's top 12. Had those rules existed this year, for those of you that are trying to play it back in your head, both ACC champion Duke and Notre Dame would have qualified for the playoff, and number 10 seed Miami, which made a run, were in the national championship game. They would have been excluded from the field. Personally, to me, I think Notre Dame and Miami both should have been in the field, but, we can't do anything about that going forward. Next season, CFP again will feature first-round games on campus sites, followed by quarterfinals and semifinals hosted by the CFP Bowls, the championship game, as we've talked about, a week later next year, January 25th, 2027, in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. So there you go. I mean, at least there's a meaningful game being played at Allegiant Stadium next year. I'm not shocked that they didn't expand here. I do think 16 is the right number. I think that Tony Petitti, this is nothing more than just an obnoxious, egregious money grab. I mean, what are we talking about here? 24 teams? Can we dilute the regular season anymore? So I would have liked to have seen it gone to 16. I think, and I've said this a few times, I think 16 is the perfect number. It is literally 1/4 of the original field of March Madness. The play-in games in March Madness, the opening round games, whatever they want us to call them now, they don't do anything for me. They do nothing for me. So 16 teams, I think, is the number. Because in a 16-team format this year, you would have gotten Notre Dame in. Well, Notre Dame didn't play anybody. I get it. I get the argument for Notre Dame, against Notre Dame. I do. I totally understand it. Notre Dame should get into a conference. That's not going to happen. That's a bad business decision for them from a financial standpoint. And what is college football driven by right now? Money. I think 16 is the perfect number, though. And the other reason I really wanted to see Notre Dame in, again, keep in mind, if we would have went to 16 this year, BYU would have gotten in. You're going to see how that's going to pertain to this way too early top 25 here in a second. BYU would have gotten in. Notre Dame would have gotten in. And then we would have had an interesting battle from there. Texas, Vanderbilt. no matter where we put this number, somebody's always going to be pissed off that they didn't get in. I think it's hilarious next year that Notre Dame and USC in their pissing contest, they don't want to play each other. And now Notre Dame finishes their season next year with a game against BYU, ironically, who they would have played in the Pop-Tarts Bowl this year. I think 16's the number. I think we're going to get there sooner rather than later. December 1st is the deadline next year to have these conversations. Can Indiana repeat? Will the Big Ten repeat next year? Preseason rankings, they're stupid in all sports, especially in college football, because all they do at the end of the year is create a bias that doesn't need to be there. That being said, and this might be a little bit harder to read, so I will read for you here. But Chris Marler from 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, dropped his way too early top 26 rankings. And this is a rankings list that I can get behind here. Let's try it that way there, dummy. Number 1, Texas, because voters didn't learn lessons. Because voters definitely don't learn lessons. Great. I got 24 more of these to read. Ohio State, because of course. Number 3, Indiana, defending champ despite not losing a game yet. Number 4, Georgia. Number 5, Oregon. Number 6, Texas Tech, or next year's NIL juggernaut, probably still Texas Tech. Number 7, LSU's $50 million roster. Number 8, Notre Dame. Number 9, Texas A&M. C, Texas at number 1. Voters don't learn lessons. Number 10 is going to be a Big Ten team or an SEC team that ends up unranked. There's a lot of candidates for that one already next year. USC, number 11, team everyone is way too high on, goes 7-5. Sounds about right. Number 12, Alabama. Number 13, and this was my favorite one on Chris's list here. BYU will finish here no matter what their record is, 13th. Miami, 14. 15, he writes Michigan or Nebraska. Number 16, Clemson, the team that ends up in the Pop-Tart Bowl. CFP team that isn't ranked till November, Oklahoma. Louisville at number 18, an ACC team that ends up 8-4 but beats Miami. Number 19, Iowa, just because. Number 20, Arizona, Big 12 team that goes 10-2 but misses the CFP or Utah. Number 21, Tennessee, Missouri or Tennessee for no reason at all. Number 22, Boise State, because why not? TCU, SMU or TCU, can't explain why, but it's definitely right. Number 24, an SEC team that goes 5-7. Number 25, USF, military, or a G6 school. That is a list I can get behind when we're talking about way too early rankings right there. So shout out to Chris Marler from 104.5 ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge. That's a list I can get behind for our 12-team playoff next season. 1,200 players. Josh Pate said this yesterday in talking with Rich Eisen. Maybe it was the day before, but I saw it yesterday, so we're going to go with that. 1,200 players, and we're just talking about FBS here, still left in the transfer portal. And I thought the conversation between Pate and Eisen was really good and very telling. That we talk about the portal and we talk about its timing and the college football calendar, which I still think is the biggest problem in college football. It needs to be fixed before we fix anything else. But there's still 1,200 players in the portal. And nobody talks about that. We talk about where people move, like Josh Hoover going to Indiana, Brendan Sorsby going to Texas Tech, what sounds like basically officially Sam Leavitt to LSU. We talk about all those things, but we don't talk about the guys that entered the transfer portal that don't have anywhere to go yet. And another thing to keep in mind that I thought was very astute that Josh Pate brought up, was the fact that the deadline is there for guys to put their name in. That doesn't mean they have to sign anywhere, but there's still 1,200 players, and we're only talking about the FBS level. There's still 1,200 players that intend to transfer that don't know where they're going yet. I get it. The way the calendar's set up and the way college football runs things as far as operationally, and nobody knows who is in charge of setting the calendar. What about the 1,200 guys that are trying to get playing time. Maybe they're chasing money. And there's a lot of people that don't like that, and I don't understand that. Who in the hell are we to tell a 19-year-old kid not to go get his bag? Go get your money. And I think once we get through this rough patch here of college football and where we're at with college football, we're going to be okay. And think about it just from quarterback transition, from college to the NFL. And you can make the jokes, well, Carson Beck's been in college since, I saw this one yesterday. Comparing Indiana's 16-0 season to Yale's 16-0 season in 1894, which is idiotic in its first place because what's there to compare? But, from a number 2 standpoint here, when we're looking at this as a whole, this is going to be better for quarterbacks that get drafted into the NFL because they're going to be more experienced. They're going to be more mature. They've seen more. It's going to translate to better quarterback play from these young guys when they get to the NFL. You've heard Vegas Mac talk about it on the program several times. He is not a proponent of drafting a quarterback and rolling him right out there for a lot of reasons. I think this is another one of those good things that is going to come out of this after we figure out who the hell is in charge of all this. Because Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey shouldn't be the ones in charge of all of this. There needs to be an independent voice who oversees everything. And I get it. People are going to say, well, a commissioner doesn't really have a power. A commissioner is just a shill for the owners. I don't care how you structure it. Somebody that actually knows, like a Nick Saban, who's been there, who's been through everything. Somebody that actually knows what's right and wrong about the way we structure college football needs to be whatever fancy title you want to give that person. Because right now it's the wild freaking West. And while it's hard to see things that are good in college football coming out of the current state of college football, there are good things. You're 18, 19 years old, go get your bag. Because your coach would leave to go get his in a second. I think this has balanced those tables out. It is the transition of where we're in. Look at sports as a whole. Streaming. Do I like it? I like the ability to take something anywhere I go with me. I've told the story several times. Arizona's a place full of wannabe sports bars that think they know what a sports bar actually is. And you go in there and there's freaking Family Feud on 4 TVs and a replay of a NASCAR race from 2 weekends ago and the MLB studio show while there's games starting at 5 o'clock. And then you have a bartender come over with 72 different remotes and they don't know what channel it's on. And they're irritated with you because they have a full bar. Arizona is full of wannabe sports bars. I love now I don't have to wait for the bartender. I just put it on my damn phone. I love that part of streaming. But what do we have in sports now? We have the anti-streaming crowd. Oh, this is ridiculous. I'm paying so much money to watch all these things. Then don't. Because here's the reality of the situation. You can complain about streaming. You can complain about college football. You can complain about all this. But you're still watching it. And until enough people choose to not consume the product, nothing is going to change. But I think the way sports is as a whole, streaming, non-streaming crowd is the easiest way to decipher this down. College football is the same way. Well, you should be playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. Dude, wake up with the times. If a 19-year-old wants to go get $1 million, go get $1 million, man. Do it. Well, they're not going to class anymore. Were they going to class in the first place to begin with? College football is not broken. It's not dead. It's not drunk. It might appear that way at all times. It's just a little hungover right now. And we'll figure it out. Because I guarantee you we're all going to be just as excited when it rolls around next year and week 0 hits. That's the reality of the situation. You can complain about it. But until you stop consuming the product and enough people stop consuming the product, not a whole lot of things are going to change. 16 teams, let's get the college football playoff to there. This was sent to me yesterday. I thought it was friggin' hilarious. We give the Dodgers all kinds of crap for what they're doing, but nobody says anything about the Las Vegas Golden Knights and how they're doing stuff. And T had some thoughts on this in his NHL check-in a couple of days ago. Don't hate the player. Hate the game. Vegas is a desirable place to play. Kelly McCrimmon does an incredible job in Vegas with the Golden Knights. So much so to the fact that Rob Taub on X yesterday threw this out. List of players Vegas has traded for at the deadline or weeks ahead of it since its inception. Vegas's inception. That's an easy word to say. Mark Stone, Alec Martinez, Chandler Stevenson, Robin Leonard, Nick Cousins, Jack Eichel, Thomas Hurl, Noah Hannafin, Jonathan Quick, Teddy Bluger, Ivan Barbashev, Riley Smith, Rasmus Anderson. That's an all-star team. LTIR, maneuvering around the rules that you're able to play with. A lot of teams can do it. I can already hear them. My team can't do that. Well, first of all, it's not your team. Second of all, you can. Every owner that's a multi-millionaire, some of them billionaires, can do this. They just choose not to. We're going to get to the Dodgers here because obviously it's been a point of contention for everybody. But I'll tell you right now, the Dodgers aren't the problem. They might actually be the solution. But no, we just want another reason to hate the Dodgers, right? Vegas is doing the same thing in the NHL. Now, the NBA put in some rules that have been pretty damn stupid as far as aprons and everything else goes, but they tried to combat this same thing the other way. Baseball, we know they need a salary floor. As much, if not more, than they need a salary cap. Don't hate Vegas for doing what they're doing. It's the way the rules are set up. But that was freaking unbelievable yesterday. Because it makes a lot of damn sense. Don't hate the player. Hate the game. Found something interesting yesterday, and I'm a little pissed off about this. I went out last year, as you guys know, hung out with T, got to see the Sharks play in Macklin Celebrini's rookie season, which I think about 10 years from now, I'm going to really appreciate how cool that was. Be nice if I had an actual ticket stub. I am one of those guys. December 20th. And if you haven't been to the Honda Center recently, they're doing a lot of construction down there. Putting money back into the team. What a concept. But we talked about the Ducks and how they went on a little bit of a rough patch there and a rough stretch after starting the season red hot. They've kind of righted the ship, if you will, as of late. 5-5 in their last 10, but they've won 5 in a row. They went on a stretch where they played really, really shitty hockey for a while there. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 losses in a row. And I find out yesterday, and of course today when I needed it, I couldn't find the picture. That losing streak for the Ducks started when they took the Wild Wings statue down from in front of the Honda Center. Now, I hope this is only for construction's sake because the Wild Wings statue, it's part of the fabric of the Ducks. Way better than those hideous orange jerseys that they're wearing. Get that statue back up, man. What are you doing in Anaheim? We've busted T's chops a lot about Fernando Mendoza being a shoo-in for the Raiders, and I mean, it looks like that's going to be the case, but I thought this was also interesting because this kind of backs TJ's point here. Fantasy Nerd Boy on X. Walk with me, Raiders. Option A, Mac Jones, Francis Muaga, Brock Bowers. Option B, Fernando Mendoza on his back. Nobody protecting him because that was a huge issue for the Raiders. And Brock Bowers saying, hey, I'm down here. And T's not wrong when he says, hey, listen, Mendoza isn't the answer. Mendoza isn't what we need if you're the Raiders. He's not wrong. But with Spytek and Davis and Brady at that game on Monday night, and I said it the other day and you saw it on our social channels last night, that image of Mendoza going into the end zone on that touchdown run, I don't think we've put it in the proper context. I mean, that's the Vince Young run in the Rose Bowl. That's Tim Tebow's jump pass multiple times that season for Florida, especially in the Orange Bowl. I mean, we're talking about iconic plays here in the history and the lineage of college football. That play right there told me Fernando Mendoza, without a doubt, is going to be a Raider. And the Raiders have a lot of holes. They also still don't have a head coach. I can see the thought in not thinking he's the answer, Mendoza. But you got to start somewhere. And I don't really know where else to start. The Raiders' offensive line was absolutely freaking atrocious last year. A lot of injuries, but just not good. One other NFL news piece to pass along here. The Buffalo Bills. We know they've interviewed Joe Brady. We know that they're interviewing Phillip Rivers. Yes, Phillip Rivers. Dadgummit. I'm going to coach the Buffalo Bills. List of candidates is going to grow, but that list of candidates growing will include Phillip Rivers for an interview. Now, here's the question I have. If Josh Allen requested the Bills, and according to senile Terry Pagula, Josh will be a part of this process, which I think is the only smart thing he said in the last 72 hours. Maybe this is Josh Allen requesting Phillip Rivers. I think, to me, it's a no-brainer, and it should have been done already. If you were going to fire McDermott, you should have had a plan, and maybe they do. Obviously, they have to go through the process. Obviously, they have to adhere to the Rooney Rule as well. Am I crazy to think that Brian Daboll is without a doubt here the best fit for this job? Knows the area, knows the team, knows the quarterback. And if Terry Pagula and Brandon Beane are dead set on what they said, that hitting the playoff wall is why we made this move, listen, I don't disagree with it. We talked about the McDermott situation all the way back to our beginning of the year preview. And TJ brought it up in August when we did this. If this team, Buffalo, can't get over the hump, when do you realize that you've hit the absolute ceiling with your coach and you need to move on? They made the call. It's a lot to replace. It's a very unpopular decision. Hell, they've got 13,000 signatures on a petition to reinstate Sean McDermott. Bills Mafia is something else, man. It's not going to make a difference because they don't care about the petition, but I mean, it just shows you, like, this next hire for Buffalo is massively important. And no shit. Josh Allen's window. But it's massively important because they're going into a new stadium. Which means they're going to print new money. Which means they can go out and spend money on said roster to where Josh Allen's number one wide receiver group, or just receivers in general, don't come down to a guy who can't get up for his alarm clock and a guy who was on however many teams in the last couple of years in Brandon Cooks. Massively important hire. Brian Daboll's a way you win back the fan base there. Well, look what he did with the Giants. I'll look what he did in his first year with the Giants before everything really started to turn into a disaster with the Giants. They let Saquon Barkley walk out the door, all of that fun stuff. Giants were a playoff team. I think Brian Daboll's an excellent coach. I think he is an excellent offensive mind. And I think for me, it's a shoo-in that he should be the guy. What are you waiting for? You're really going to let Brian Dable go down and coordinate the offense with Cam Ward in Tennessee, Buffalo, when he's already come out and said that that's the job he wants, and if he doesn't get it, that's where he's going to end up being? I don't think you can gift wrap this thing any better for the Bills. The Phillip Rivers thing is interesting. And if that's what Josh wanted, you know what? You're absolutely going to talk to Phillip Rivers, or you're a complete dipshit that has no business operating a professional sports franchise, let alone two of them. We've heard stories that may be a little bit of a power play thing going on with Sean McDermott. Here's the reality of it. We're never going to know the exact situation because none of us are inside that building. If I'm one of these 5 teams now that Jesse Minter has been named the head coach of the Ravens, if I'm one of these 5 teams left with an opening, I want to talk to Sean McDermott. The best comparison I heard about Sean McDermott and what he was able to do in Buffalo, and I think this was so spot on, and my apologies, because it was something I saw thumbing through X, and I don't have who originally said this. It is not my original creation, but I think this nails it. Sean McDermott was to the Bills what Tony Dungy was to the Buccaneers. And there's nothing wrong with that. The guy is a good football coach. And if I am one of the 5 teams that still has an opening, I want to talk to Sean McDermott. And not just to talk to Sean McDermott, like when you're looking at those jobs that are still open in Pittsburgh. Obviously, he's not going to go back to Buffalo. Arizona. A lot of people already unhappy in Atlanta with the Kevin Stefanski thing for whatever reasons you want to read into that. Arizona? You would be lucky as hell to even convince Sean McDermott to talk to you. But if you want a guy and you're serious about changing your organization's direction, there isn't a guy out there better than Sean McDermott to do that right now. I understand there's a lot of people that love Mike McCarthy, and I get it. Mike McCarthy is a good football coach. But I'm going to look at Sean McDermott. And if I'm the Cardinals, I'm going to really look at Sean McDermott. Are they going to? Probably not. But if Josh Allen wants Phillip Rivers, guess what? That's what you give him. Odds for the next Buffalo Bills head coach, which I think these are absolutely stupid. Your favorite right now is Brian Dable. Clint Kubiak 2nd, Joe Brady 3rd, Phillip Rivers 4th, Mike McDaniel 5th. Mike McDaniel, he's going to the Chargers. Well, as we've heard this morning, Mike McDaniel is going to continue to interview for certain head coaching jobs if he so desires. If he does not get one, he will be the offensive coordinator of the Chargers. Other names on this list, Davis Webb, a guy we talked about, very good friends with Josh Allen, the Broncos quarterback coach. Grant Udinsky from the Jaguars, Bobby Babich, Mike McCarthy, Cliff Kingsbury. Obviously, it can't be Jesse Minter because he just got hired. I think it's as plain as effing day to me. Brian Dable wants the job. Brian Dable knows how to work with Josh Allen. Brian Dable is a creative offensive mind. Brandon Beane, there's a lot of heat on you. Give Brian Dable some groceries to make a meal with, and let's go. Because the one way I don't want to talk about Josh Allen in his post-football career is a way that right now it looks like we might be talking about Josh Allen in his post-football career. A really damn good quarterback. One of the best, if not the best in the league year after year. Who could never get to a Super Bowl? We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen in the same way? It's Brian Dable, Buffalo. Don't screw this up. Going into a new building, you're going to print money, put some players on the field, get players around Josh Allen, for God's sakes. I don't care where you put the Super Bowl. You can put the Super Bowl in freaking Siberia, and Bills Mafia will be all over there. I have to see the Bills get to a Super Bowl in my lifetime. I have to. And I'm going to be physically ill if Josh Allen's playing career comes to an end and we couldn't even put a team on the field to get him to a Super Bowl. Don't screw this up, Buffalo. It is so blatantly obvious right now who the guy is. Get it done. Get it over with. Let's move forward to next year and let's go on. Championship weekend is what we'll go on to, and we'll start in the AFC. We've made a couple of plays so far this week. Again, feel free to comment along if you're watching along. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. Shout out TJ. Respect, bruh. Touchdown trio play. We dropped this one on Wednesday. We're still trying to hit this. I don't know what's worse on me is when we can't get the touchdown thing or we can't get the dollar dingers thing. Touchdown trio play. I went with Lil Jordan Humphrey of the Broncos. Mac went with the Patriots defense. TJ goes with AJ Barner on his call there, the tight end for the Seahawks. I think we're looking at a weekend where we could see some really goofy touchdown scores, which I love. Because like homers, touchdowns are overjuiced to shit. So you got to be careful with them. But I think we're looking at a weekend where, like, George Holani of the Seahawks. Told you I wanted to make a bet on Robbie Ounce, the fullback of the Seahawks, to score a touchdown this weekend. Because it's seemingly every year when we get to championship weekend, there is one player in the two games out of nowhere that is a massive difference maker and the reason his team is going on to the Super Bowl. I am still looking for that right pairing this weekend. I'll find it. But our touchdown trio plus 10,971. As we say, we're not handicappers. These aren't locks. We're not going to have you sign up for our picks because that's not who we are. We're bettors like the rest of you. We're going to tell you why we're betting on what we're betting. You can agree with us. You cannot agree with us. $5 pays $5.50 on that one. A hair under $5.50 on the touchdown trio. TJ and I made our championship six-pack. Again, any pick that we were split on. We did 2 same-game parlays this week, so 6 plays. It's been pretty successful. 9-4 in Bulls Miss. 4-2 in the wild card round. 3-3 last week in the divisional round and the national championship. So the picks that we were split on, we flipped a coin. What it ended up spitting out with us: Denver plus 5.5, Hunter Henry over 42.5 receiving, Demario Douglas for a touchdown, Rams Seahawks first half under 23.5, Sam Darnold under 235.5 passing yards, and Colby Parkinson for a touchdown. So the whole thing together, if you wanted to do it that way, you know what we say: play them straight, play them together. That's up to you. The whole thing together is a plus 21,200. So you can do the math on that. $5 gets you over $1,000. There is one site out there, and again, they don't pay our bills, so I'm not going to tell you what it is because they're not a sponsor of the show. You can opt for a no sweat token, so you can put $10 on that, try and win yourself $2,000, or get your $10 back. However you want to do it. The AFC Championship game, same game parlay, is plus 1432. $5 gets you 7160. NFC Championship game plus 1290. $5 will get you about $65. As far as the games go individually, though, we'll start with the AFC Championship game. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo from Denver. The Patriots 8-0 on the road. Denver 8-1 at home. A Sean versus Mike matchup in this one. I'm fascinated by this. Because the early line on this game was Denver minus 1.5. Then Bo Nix gets hurt, and this thing balloons all the way up to Denver plus 5.5. So you mean to tell me that the difference between Bo Nix and Jared Stidham is 7 points? If you're looking today, it's dropped back down to 4.5 for the Patriots. Broncos a plus 195 on the money line. Your over-under in this one is 42.5. I don't think there's a 7-point difference between Bo Nix and Jared Stidham. Well, Jared Stidham hasn't thrown a pass. I mean, listen, if you've watched the show, you know what I think of Bo Nix. I love the dude. I said going into that draft, that I thought he was going to be the best quarterback for the long haul out of that entire draft. But a 7-point swing? I mean, let's be honest here. Jarrett Stidham hasn't played a ton in the last couple of years here, but the dude's been in the league. One of the first, if not the first guy that Sean Payton, as soon as he got the job, went out and got. And there's a couple other things on that. But when it comes to Bo Nix here, I don't think people have really put a lot of credit into what he's been able to do on the field. And I got to give a shout out to Kay Adams from her Up and Adams show, because she really kind of went into detail on this. All-time ranks through his first 2 seasons. Bo Nix, 25 wins, third. I get it. Wins aren't a quarterback stat. Relax. Just follow me here. Game-winning drives, he's tied for first with 11. Touchdown passes, 58, including the playoffs, all of these. Third all-time in his first 2 seasons. 7 points, though? A whole touchdown? I love Bo Nix. But I'm also not going to buy into this fact that Jarrett Stidham, because he hasn't played in so long and he's going against the Patriots defense, that they have no chance. It's not a 7-point swing. Let's go even further. As far as the New England Patriots as a franchise in Denver, they're 12-21. 12-17 in the regular season, 0-4 in the postseason are the Patriots in Denver. You know what it is in Denver? You see it as soon as you walk in the door. Altitude sickness is real. Broncos lead the all-time series 31-24. Let's go a step further. If any team is familiar with Jarrett Stidham, we know it's the Patriots because they drafted him. Are a lot of those people still there? Not many of them. There's a few of them. Patriots offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, when he was the head coach with the Raiders. He traded for Stidham. Backed up Derek Carr. Then he signed with Denver, backed up Russell Wilson. That whole disaster experiment, which has worked out fantastic for the Broncos. When McDaniels returned to New England last offseason, who did he try and grab back to back up Drake May? Jarrett Stidham. He chose to stay in Denver. What we've heard is part of that was because of Davis Webb, another emerging coaching candidate, the quarterback coach of the Broncos. Another thing in this game, it sounds more likely than not that Denver gets J.K. Dobbins back for this game. How effective is he going to be? I don't know. He hasn't played since November 6th. But you bring J.K. Dobbins back into the fold here, that takes a lot of pressure off of Jarrett Stidham. A lot. And R.J. Harvey's done well. But the whole point in Denver was Dobbins and Harvey. I don't think we can sell that point short. And again, Dobbins might not be highly effective, but just his presence being back on the field. Can Denver beat New England down the field? Well, here's one thing we do know. Sean Payton's going to be aggressive as hell because that's who Sean Payton is. So I don't think because Jarrett Stidham's in there, it's going to change the way Sean Payton calls the game. Can they beat the Patriots down the field? Because the one thing the Patriots defense does very, very well is they don't let you get behind them. So we know Payton's going to be aggressive. He's going to try and take the deep shots down the field. He's not going to change the way he calls the game. There's a reason he went out and wanted to make sure Stidham was still a part of this team. Now he gets his chance to prove to us that he's the smartest man alive, and that's why Stidham is back. But the Patriots don't let you get behind their defense. And then there's the Drake May conundrum. Okay, we talked about the Patriots all year. Quite a few times I referred to them as last year's Commanders with a better defense. Then I watched them late in the season and I started to warm up to them. And I don't think there's any question that Josh McDaniels, being the guy he works with closely there in Drake May, that Drake May has had the year that he's had and could win the MVP. I still think it's Stafford. I will still kick myself as hard as I possibly can for not betting that when I said it at the beginning of the year. Drake May's been sacked 10 times. He's thrown 2 picks, and he's fumbled 6 times, losing 3 of them in the games that they've played this postseason against Los Angeles and against Houston. 5 times this year, the Patriots played a team with a winning record. Drake May was sacked 22 times in those games and threw 4 interceptions. So which Drake May do I get on the road in Denver against Denver's defense? Do I get MVP Drake May from the regular season, or do I get Drake May from the playoffs? Because I am 1,000% convinced if Drake May plays like he has in the first 2 games for the Patriots lose this game. To me, that is the biggest question mark. Is Drake May. We joke about it all the time with the Patriots. It is maddening to try and pick a touchdown scorer for the Patriots. It's maddening to try and pick a over-under yard total on guys for the Patriots because they have so many interchangeable parts, so many different guys. It all comes down to Drake May for me. Denver's defense led the league in sacks with 68. Something that they didn't do that good as far as sacking the quarterback was turning the other team over. Well, we saw last week they forced 5 turnovers. The Patriots' offensive line all season has kind of been a question mark. They played really good. Some injuries as of late, not so much. Good old allergies. I'm getting choked up talking about the AFC Championship game. Denver, New England, I've never seen it before. Denver's defense is also number 1 in limiting explosive plays. The Patriots, bottom 5 in both red zone offense and red zone defense. Denver, they're top 5 in both. Now, how does the red zone offense change because of Jarrett Stidham? It's going to change a little bit. There's things you can do with Nix in the red zone that you can't do with Stidham. But I don't see this as this big of a gap, and I don't see it as a 7-point swing. Number 1 seeds in conference championship games are 21-5 straight up since 2006. Average margin of victory is 10.1 points per game. Number 1 seeds versus number 2 seeds straight up, 12-3 in that time period. Home dogs of 4 points or more in the last 50 years are 9-1 against the spread. The Broncos have covered 4 straight games as a dog. Now, normally this is where I would add max line of, we see it in the NBA especially a lot. Teams have to have a step-up year. You have to get close, a la the Commanders last year. You lose. Theoretically, you should have been better. We know what happened with the Commanders this year. These are 2 teams with their current groups of guys that haven't been here yet, so that's out the window. And I think in the NFL, more than anything, you can see a 1-year run to a Super Bowl. We see the turnaround from worst to first more often in the NFL than any other league. 4 straight covers for Denver as a dog. Coaching matchup, I think it's dead even. I'm not buying a 7-point swing here. I like the Broncos. I like them outright to win the game. I think we're looking at a 23-20 type of game. So as far as our AFC Championship game, same game parlay that T and I picked together, we had Denver at 5.5, Hunter Henry over 42.5 yards receiving, and I went with Demario Douglas for a touchdown. Again, Patriots touchdown scorers are a pain in the ass to find. But we know what Denver's defense does. A lot of attention's going to be on Booty. A lot of attention's going to be on the running game for the Patriots. A lot of attention is going to be on Stephon Diggs. I think Demario Douglas is a guy that could probably find the end zone here. Other plays that I like in the game, I'm gonna steal something off of TJ's bag here. Will Lutz, the kicker for the Broncos, over 7.5 points. He's a plus 100, even money. 2 field goals, 2 touchdowns. 23-20. They correlate. It's plus money. So I like Lutz over 7.5 kicking points. I also like the first half of this game over 20.5. I think the natural thought would be two good defenses, yada, 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 under first half. I'm kind of thinking the opposite here. Because of the aggression of Sean Payton, I think one of two things, if not both of these, happens in the first half. I think Denver scores on a big play because of the aggression. I also think Denver's at risk, and this is why I love Max playing our touchdown trio of New England's defense scoring a touchdown. I also can see a big play risk being returned all the way on them. And I think we're going to get a lot of that in the first half. I think, based on what we've seen in the postseason, we've talked a lot about the fourth quarters in the college football playoff and the NFL playoffs, how many points are being scored in the fourth quarter of these games. I think this might be the one game of this entire postseason that kind of goes the opposite. I'm thinking 23-20, and I like the first half over. Let's go to the NFC title game. T referenced a picture on the show yesterday. I know all of the wife's friends and family will love this one. I sent it to a few of you yesterday. You're welcome. But T referenced a picture about the Niners' quest for 6, which is 32 years running now. 33 years, I don't know, lost count, losing faith. This was from last Saturday night in Seattle, and I can't even be mad at it. A, because the guy's dressed up like a jackass, and B, like, I mean, well done. And this floated around a bunch of places yesterday, so if this was your doing, please let me know. I've asked on X. Want to give credit to where credit's due for this one, but well done by whoever did it, because it's hilarious. These are two teams. I mean, when we talk about the coin flip. This is your 6:30 Eastern, your late game kickoff on Fox. Tom Brady, Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Rinaldi, Aaron Andrews. Rams plus 120 on the money line. Seahawks minus 2.5 over under as it currently sits right now at this very moment, 46.5. Los Angeles 5-4 on the road. Seattle 6-2 at home. All-time series between these two teams. The Rams 29 wins, 1,223 points. The Seahawks 28 wins, 1,222 points. This season, 58-57 Rams, total yards 830 to 829 Rams. Seattle's 13-4 in the postseason at home. The Rams are 2-0 in the postseason against Seattle. Both of those wins coming in Seattle. Both teams making their third NFC Championship game appearance in the last 20 years. This one's going to be interesting. Not a whole lot of love lost between these two teams. Not a whole lot of hidden anything between these two teams. Sam Darnold dealing with the oblique. Hasn't put up monster passing numbers. Hasn't had to. Threw for $124 and a touchdown last week. No picks. 12 of 17. Didn't have to do anything else. That game was over 13 seconds in. And as we say, don't just rely on the freaking box score. Because if you watch that game, while let's say San Francisco maybe still had a chance, they didn't. Again, the game was over 13 seconds in. But while the game was still in the first half, Sam made some really big throws. Some really big throws. Don't just look at his $124 and his 12 of 17 and go, well, if he's got to throw for 200, they're going to lose. Because that's not accurate either. Can Sam Darnold figure out Chris Shula's defense? He's thrown 6 picks in 2 games against the Rams this year. And one of the things that's been highly effective against Sam is that hidden defender, that underneath drop back that he doesn't see. Something that Chris Shula has done masterfully against Darnold this year. But we talk about how great both of these defenses are. And We're looking at 830 and 829 yards against each other, respectively. They know how to move the ball on each other. If Sam can't identify that hidden drop back defender that Shula's used in both games against him, it's going to put the Seahawks behind the 8 ball. We know they don't have Zach Charbonnet. Kenny Walker able to handle the whole load? Absolutely he is. But how does that change the approach from Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator of the Seahawks? Injuries, also a way bigger part of this game than the AFC Championship game. Manuel Forbes for the Rams, limited shoulder injury. He's expected to play. Ahkello Witherspoon, he's done. He hurt that shoulder against Carolina. Byron Young was held out of practice this week as a precautionary method knee soreness. Quentin Lake missed practice Wednesday because of an illness. And you know what? I'm not surprised that we see a key player in this game for the Rams dealing with an illness. Come off of an overtime game in freezing freaking cold Chicago last week. Sean McVay dressed up for Antarctica. Is that going to be something that plays a factor in here for the Rams? So far, it looks like they're only dealing with one guy. Whether he got sick from the road trip last week or not, who knows? But it's also a Rams team that spent the better part of the last 8 weeks on the road. Sam Darnold, we talked about the oblique. Elijah Arroyo, Chaz Surratt for the Seahawks, both full participants after being ruled out of last week's game. But here's the big one for the Hawks. Charles Cross. And nobody paid attention to it because he left in the third quarter of the game against the 49ers last week and didn't have to come back in. Hell, he probably didn't even have to play in the second half. He hurt his foot. He didn't practice Wednesday. I believe, if I remember correctly, the Seahawks are on the practice field right now or have just recently completed practice. So nothing as far as today as of right this second. Cross did not practice Wednesday. Josh Jones, Amari Knight, George Holani, Chenna Nwosu, hamstring still another big one. He was limited in practice, as was Robbie Oots. Here's the other thing in this game, too. In 2 games, and we know Seattle's not a team that blitzes a lot. They have a heavy pressure rate, but it's not from blitzing. They haven't sacked Matt Stafford in either game they've played against the Rams this year. They've got to get Matt Stafford moving and let their secondary, which I think is the most underrated part of their defense in Seattle, let their secondary make plays. Because that secondary, they are, for lack of a better term, they are ball hawks. 17.2 points per game. But the Rams have been the one team that have really moved the ball successfully on them. The Seahawks, on the flip side, have moved the ball very successfully on the Rams. Cooper Kupp had his most yards receiving this season against San Francisco last week. Going against his old team. Played his college ball at EWASH. Went to Seattle when LA didn't want him anymore. Maybe Cooper Kupp has a big game. The game plan last week, and we've talked about this a couple of times with the Rams, I thought was very unusual. Because I, like a lot of other people last week, all over Blake Corum against that Bears defense. And it was like the whole first half, Sean McVay was like, and this just goes to show how damn good he is. The whole first half was like Sean McVay trying to outsmart himself. I'm interested to see the game plan for the Rams here and how they attack, especially early. Since the end of November loss at Carolina, LA has given up 31, 17, 34, 38, 27, 20, 31, and 17 points. 2 of the games that I listed in there, they played the Cardinals. The Bears put up a shit ton of yards on that Rams defense last week, and the Bears couldn't get out of their own way. We should be talking about the Bears and the Seahawks playing, but that's where coaching matters. And that's why Sean McVay's got his team back in this position. But the reality of the situation is this. This is the 7th road game the Rams have played in the last 9 weeks. Hard-fought wild card game in Carolina. Overtime game in freezing cold in Chicago, and now you're going to Seattle, and you have to deal with that noise box that they are familiar with. I get it. But this is a Seattle fan base that's coming off of a great year from the Mariners and a long way back to this point. Lumen Field will be louder on Sunday night than we have ever heard it before. And Matt Stafford is a dog of all dogs, one of the toughest players in the entire NFL. And the reason I was out on the Rams at the beginning of the year was because of all the stuff that he was dealing with his back in the preseason. He's got a $150,000 hyperbaric chamber bed thing that has got him to this point and gotten the Rams to this point. Sean McVay, as good as it gets. Everybody laughed at me last year when I said Mike Macdonald was a damn good football coach and he was going to build something and was already building something special in Seattle. And even my wife, the biggest Pete Carroll supporter of all time, suffered through watching the Raiders this year, bought herself a Raiders shirt just because of her love for the guy that's Pete Carroll, which is shared amongst a lot of people in the Pacific Northwest. And a lot of them hated Mike Macdonald from the jump because he wasn't Pete Carroll. I give to you now, end of year 2, Mike Macdonald. How damn happy are you in Seattle? Because this defense has pieces at every level. And again, I'm telling you, Lumen is going to be louder than you have ever heard it on Sunday night. I love that this is the night game on Sunday. I love that it's these two teams. Because all in all, health to health, whatever excuse, non-excuse that you want to drop in there, these clearly were the two best teams in the NFC. We've given you the numbers straight up against each other. They're dead friggin' even. Seahawks, 23-17. They go on to the Super Bowl to take on the Broncos. Other plays I like in this game. T and I joked, I went with Tyler Higbee for a touchdown. He went with Colby Parkinson. The coin told us we're going with Colby Parkinson. And I said, watch Terrence Ferguson be the guy that scores the touchdown from the tight end position for the Rams. I'm not going to say that into the universe and then not bet it. He's plus 600 to score a touchdown. Other one I like, and I don't love it because of, it seems like it's a little overjuiced to me. But we know no Zach Charbonnet. And the thing that's aggravating from a betting standpoint on the Hawks is every time they would get close to the goal line, it's Charbonnet's time, not Walker's time. The Seahawks have a couple other bodies that can run the football. Velus Jones, 6 carries, 10 yards against the Niners. A.J. Barner had 1 carry for 2 yards against the Niners. I love TJ's play of A.J. Barner for a touchdown because we've seen in Seattle's version of the tush push that A.J. Barner's the guy that gets under center there. There's another guy that runs the football for Seattle that I think it's egregiously low with Zach Charbonnet not being in the game. Rashid Shaheed's rushing total, 4.5 yards. Over. He had 2 carries for 27 yards against the Niners last week. One of them was a 30-yard carry. The other was a 3-yard loss. But when the Seahawks got Rashid Shaheed at the trade deadline, nobody even acknowledged the move. Came from New Orleans. He's not a number 1 wide receiver. I think you understand now why Rashid Shaheed was a target for the Seahawks. The Niners definitely know. But with no Zach Charbonnet in the game and Sam Darnold not really being fleet of foot, and especially with an oblique injury, the last thing you want is Darnold running anywhere. And Darnold's never really much of a running threat anyways. Seattle's going to have to find a way. And this is the other factor that I haven't heard people talking about a lot in this game, which is really, really interesting to me. Seattle's offensive coordinator, who is highly up on a lot of lists for jobs, is Clint Kubiak. Recognize the name? Kubiak, Shanahan, McVay. Kubiak's brother is the offensive coordinator for the 49ers. This whole tree is tied together. Chris Shula's in the mix. Clint Kubiak is going to have to do something from a play calling standpoint that the Rams haven't seen. No shit, right? Rashid Shaheed running the ball 4.5 yards. I don't know. Again, there's a bunch of gold buildings in Vegas because they are smarter than us. 4.5 yards for a team that just lost their go-to goal line back. Two teams that know each other really well. I don't know. I've convinced myself that over 4.5 yards on Rashid Shaheed's rushing total is a really good play this weekend. Maybe I'm just an idiot. So I've got Seahawks. I've got Broncos. Your Super Bowl matchup. Ironically, at the scene of the crime, when Denver won their last Super Bowl, 10 years later. Incredible game. Cam Newton watched too. It was an incredible game for him. Seahawks and Broncos. That's my Super Bowl call. I know yesterday I said I thought it was going to be Mike and Mike. I waffled as I dove more into it. No, it's not a happy wife, happy life thing. What it came down to is I believed in Mike McDonald last year. They made moves that made them even better this year. Nick Eamon should be the defensive rookie of the year. I know he's probably not going to get it, and it's bullshit. He should be. Maybe I'm talking from my futures bet on him to be defensive rookie of the year. That kid, if you haven't watched Nick Eamon play for the Seahawks yet, you need to. But I think Clint Kubiak's going to be in his bag this weekend. So that's where we're at. Maybe fade me. I mean, honestly, the smarter bet is probably a Rams-Patriots Super Bowl at that point. But I don't know. I've liked the Seahawks team for a long time, going back to last year. And I think with the way that they absolutely manhandled and destroyed San Francisco, that was enough for me to believe what I believe in Mike McDonald. Under 23 in the first half. Under 23.5 in the first half. Love that play. That was the first bet I made instantly, was the first half of this game under. For a couple reasons. A, the familiarity, and B, because we've seen the Seahawks struggle in the first half of games this year. Especially late in games. They went for a while, they were dominating in the first half of the games, and then they went about a 5 of 7 game stretch where they didn't even score 6 points in the first half. And just the familiarity and the nerves. I mean, we're still not talking about the fact here that when we go back to the quarterback class of, I want to say it was 2018 maybe? I don't remember the year off the top of my head. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen. Sorry, Cardinals fans, but he was part of it. I have to be factual here. Mayfield, Darnold, Allen, Rosen, Jackson. If you had Sam Darnold to be the first quarterback to reach a Super Bowl off of that list, you're high. And I want to know whatever you're on, because that's incredible shit. It's going to be a fun weekend, man. It's going to be a really, really fun weekend. Next week, normal shows. Super Bowl week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday shows. But next week will be Tuesday, Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday during the daytime. I am going to pull a scene switch on y'all from Thursday's show to Friday's show. TJ and I will do Lunchtime Live next Thursday. I am going to do Lunchtime Live on Friday, just like this, next Friday, from a completely different location, but one you've seen before. Follow us, of course, all weekend on our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. Finally, the talk of the town. The Los Angeles Dodgers. Ruining baseball. They get special exemptions that nobody else gets. Not entirely inaccurate there. I'm refreshing, by the way. Those of you that have been watching all week, we appreciate you. Tag your friends, tell your friends. Make sure you're hitting that like, follow, or subscribe button. You'd be surprised. You might think you are, but you're not, and it goes a long way for us, and we appreciate you. There's my pandering for today's show. But every day this week, not every day this week, we're on a 2 consecutive day streak. Right at the end of the show, some other baseball news breaks. Let's check the timing on this. This doesn't count. Technically, Mackenzie Gore got traded right at the end of yesterday's show. Freddie Peralta got traded right at the end of Wednesday night's show. Right before I started today, missed this one. Actually, no, it happened during the show, so this counts. This is 3 days in a row for baseball. Breaking news on the Mike Arana show. This one's a big one. Make sure you're sitting down. White Sox and right-handed pitcher Sir Anthony Dominguez agree to a $20 million deal. 2-year, $20 million deal with a mutual option. So the White Sox finally traded Luis Robert this week. And all it took was Luis Angel Acuna. After 3 years of us waiting for Luis Robert to get traded at the deadline, he was going to be a difference maker, and that's what it took? Well, at least the White Sox are trying to spend money. But again, the Dodgers are ruining everything. You know what? Like I said, I can't disagree with you. The way the McCourt thing went and the TV deal that doesn't expire until 2039 and the way they can maneuver money, yes. Does it provide a little bit of an unfair advantage? Yes. At the same time, everything catches up to you. So at some point down the road, this is going to literally hammer the Dodgers for probably close to a decade. Or maybe it doesn't. Because we know we're probably headed to a lockout because of the Dodgers. The salary cap is the thing that everybody wants, especially now because of the Kyle Tucker deal. This is where I'll tell you Los Angeles is kind of the problem, but they're also the solution. Because while we're going to drag this thing through the mud, for most of the league wanting a salary cap, I do believe the one thing that'll come out of this is a salary floor. Which, again, like fixing the college football calendar, a salary floor in baseball, easy for you to say, actually changes the dynamic. And let me ask you this question, too. For those of you that your instant argument when somebody says your owner can do what the Dodgers is doing, and it's usually from a fan of a small market team that cries and says, no, they can't. Yes, they can. One less yacht, one new right fielder. I don't understand why this is hard for some people to put 2 and 2 together. But it's the Dodgers' fault. The Dodgers are ruining baseball. Mike Duro on X yesterday. As a 97-win team trades their ace because they don't want to pay him. Who are we talking about? Freddie Peralta, who got traded to the Mets at the end of our show on Wednesday night. Small market team can't afford to... No, they didn't want to pay him. And you can sit here and try and argue the other side of it all you want. The Brewers traded Freddie Peralta because they didn't want to pay him. That's not the Dodgers' fault. And listen, for those of you that might be popping in for the very first time here, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm from the Bay Area. I'm a Bay Area guy. Niners, Warriors, Giants, Sharks. Thank God for the Sharks right now. They're the only stable thing in the Bay Area. If anybody has a reason to vehemently detest the Los Angeles Dodgers, it's me. I literally grew up in this rivalry. The Dodgers are not the problem. The teams that refuse to try and compete are the problem. Competitive imbalance comes from people that aren't trying to be competitive. Can you have a $500 million payroll in Tampa? No. But that doesn't mean Tampa's excused from trying. Can you have a $500 million payroll in Colorado? I think it's possible. But we know that ain't going to happen. So you have teams like the Mets, and you have teams like the Blue Jays, and you have teams like the Dodgers, the three teams that have done the most this offseason. Trying to compete, spending to win. Competitive imbalance comes from not trying to win. Not because your owner can't. Because at no point should any of us cry for a billionaire, a multi-billionaire, a multi-millionaire, because he can't put a competitive team on the field. One less vacation home, a one-year second baseman. This math is not hard. Does something need to be done to level out maybe a little bit of the financial advantage that the Dodgers have? Yes, I do agree with you. But at the same time, I'm not going to tolerate or listen to owners cry poor who don't want to try. There is a grave difference there. And that's why the Dodgers are part of the problem in Major League Baseball, but they're also more part of the solution. Stop making excuses for billionaires and millionaires that don't try. Did you need to buy this other toy, this other vacation home? Or did you need a fifth starting pitcher? Some owners operate like a business. Some owners operate to win. But competitive imbalance comes from not trying, not the other way around. Remember that. Enjoy Conference Championship weekend. Next week, we'll be talking about who is headed to Santa Clara for the Super Bowl, even though all of the Super Bowl activities will take place in San Francisco. For Vegas Mac, for TJ, for everybody behind the scenes, we will talk with you next week. Enjoy Conference Championship weekend. Really, really enjoy it. Great college hoops on tomorrow as well. So much fun stuff. For the rest of the crew, I'm Mike. You know the drill. We'll talk with you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel on Tuesday night, 5:30 on the West Coast, 8:30 on the East Coast. Other than that, we're out.